Hey, welcome everybody to another recording of the Police Applicant Podcast YouTube channel. This is a special presentation of a special series that we're doing called Law Enforcement Officers Target on My Back. And these are stories from the inside. Today we're going to be speaking with former Deputy Sheriff Scott Stone of the El Paso, Colorado Sheriff's Department, El Paso County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, Scott, welcome. Donovan Heavener is here with us. And what we've got to talk about today is something that whenever I hear these types of stories, it really annoys me, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
It annoys me. It angers me. It annoys me. So what we're going to go through today, Scott was a deputy sheriff. He was working in task force with his partner. And what happened was the suspect shot his partner. His partner died. Scott was injured in the line of duty, also shot. And then at the end of the day, he loses his partner and he tries to go back to work, can't go back to work. And his department decides that they're not going to medically retire him. And this was an injustice that we want to talk about. So what happens when your department turns its back on you? So Scott, again, welcome. What we want to get into first is tell us a little bit about you and your years on the job and how you got into law enforcement.
Oh boy. So to start off with, my grandfather was actually in law enforcement. He was a New Orleans cop, and he actually was killed in the line of duty in 1977. So you would think that would end at law enforcement in my family, but my dad, he went into the military, and he was stationed at Fort Carson, got out of the military, and decided to go into work in law enforcement because he always had that calling. So he started working locally here. He started working for Fountain PD, and then eventually actually moved over to the Paso County Sheriff's Office and retired out of there in, I want to say, 2016 or 17. So just a couple of years before my shooting. So I always wanted to get into law enforcement, but I always thought I was going to do the Fed stuff. So, but a lot of the federal agencies, they say, well, it always helps to have local law enforcement. So I went to the police academy locally. I did it right when the recession was happening. So like 2009. That was a really bad idea, I found out, because I applied for one small town agency, and this agency literally had 350 applicants from all over the nation putting in for this one position that paid like $40,000 a year. So, and like, gosh, I did get hired with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I did that as a temporary ranger. So, and then was a reserve deputy right after that for a little while for Teller County Sheriff's Office. Then went to Manitou Springs PD. Got hired on there full time for about 2.5 years. And then a tax initiative here in town passed, which allowed the sheriff's office to hire additional deputies. And so I applied for it because my dad was like, you should come over, you should try it. At that point, I'd pretty much given up on the federal stuff and was like, I'll just be a task force officer or something like that. And I saw a lot of career advancement opportunities with the sheriff's office. And so I put in. I ended up getting the position and went straight out to the road and was there up until 21. The shooting, though, happened in 18. So I was on patrol, part-time detective for a number of years, doing everything from gangs and narcotics, uniform stuff, and then doing the part-time task force for auto theft. So that was kind of my start off in law enforcement. And then in 2018, the shooting happened. So, normal day going out, we were looking for stolen cars. We have a few different tactics. I won't divulge too much, but, we basically would, look for stolen cars and tag them and follow them around for a little while. And we came across this one. We tagged it with the owner's permission, and it moved later that day. And we decided after a while that we needed to take the guy into custody. And that's when bullets started flying. So I was hit in the abdomen with one 9mm round. It actually went all the way through and is actually backed by my L5 embedded in the psoas muscle. So the way it sits is, here's my spinal cord and here's the bullet. So it's right about here in the muscle. It calcified. So when that muscle gets agitated, it actually pushes my spinal cord out. So, and everything. So it's kind of crazy. But the other good thing I will say, I didn't bleed to death because I'm still here. So I'm very thankful for that. But one of the first responders, the stuff that they had with them was the cranial quick clot. So, and I was bleeding a lot. So one of the guys, he poured the cranial quick clot in, and it kept me from bleeding out, but it caused a ton of vascular damage in my body. So I ended up having and I'll go into the stents and everything, but it ended up causing a blood clot from my foot to my lower back, where there was less, or it was entirely blocked. Eventually I only gained 1% flow rate through that main vein through my leg. So I don't have full function on my leg because of it. And I get blood pooling and all that kind of stuff in it. So, so the recovery from the actual shooting itself, just to get it back to walking, was about 7 months. And then when I started walking again, from walking to getting back to where I could actually go and sit down at a desk was another 4 months. So, and then I got, or I did kind of like a part-time duty thing at the sheriff's office for a few more months. And then the undersheriff had came to me and said, hey, I had already been slated to go to detectives and like full time and all that kind of stuff at that point in my career. I actually wanted to do more of like the Vice Narcotics and Intelligence Unit, but because that I didn't have full function of my leg. He was like, well, we're going to slot you. We're actually going to put you in the missing persons unit. So because that'll allow you to also recover and do what you need to do and that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, cool. So they put me in missing persons, start doing some of those cases. A lot of missing person stuff you can really do from a desk. It's a lot of follow up. It's a lot of, hey, is this person here? Hey, is this happening? And then you could send like a patrol officer or whatever to the address to go verify that somebody's there, or like, hey, can you go check this address? I cleared close to 200 missing person cases for my agency at the time. So, because just by like sending people, like I remember I called a little agency down in Texas, and the officer was like, well, I'm not actually on duty yet, and I don't want to wake up the sheriff. And I was like, well, can you guys just go check and see if this person's here? Like, he's like, well, yeah, well, the sheriff's not on for a few more days, but I just don't want to wake him. I'm like, how many of there are you? And he's like, well, it's me and the sheriff. And I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah.
If I can interrupt for just a second, can you let's back up a little bit?
Yeah, man.
Go into a little bit more of the detail of the shooting and how Micah, your partner Micah Flick, was killed, and the whole dynamics of how you ended up getting shot as a result of Micah's and you confronting this suspect. If you can go a little bit more into that story.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So we were so when we got to the point where we were deciding that, hey, we're going to start looking at doing a takedown or letting this guy back in the car, because he had gotten out and he walked towards an apartment complex. And so we were like, okay, he's out of the car. dude was acting kind of erratic. So at that point, we were like, hey, we probably shouldn't let this guy drive. And there's a task force of about 15 officers. So it's not like, I think there was 10 of us that day. But we decided, hey, we're not going to let this guy get back in the car. He's just acting too erratic. So we're going to keep him from getting to that point. But he went into an apartment. So let's go see what apartment he's in. So we set up to basically, if he comes out, we can take him down and that kind of thing. Micah and I hop out of the car and we start walking towards the breezeway to basically see what what unit this cat went into. As we start walking towards the breezeway, he comes out of this like hallway of different apartments, and we just keep on walking towards him. He's walking towards us, and we get to the point where we are about shoulder to shoulder with this guy. And so we had already received the order, hey, don't let this guy get back in the car. So Micah and I knew that we were going to have to basically grab a hold of this guy. So we grab a hold of him. I yell out police, and all of a sudden, bam, I just feel something hit me in the side. So I was like, holy crud. I thought he had punched me and had just taken the wind out of me. So as I'm holding on to this guy, I feel like something's wrong. Like I just knew something was wrong. So, but I knew he had his hands in his hoodie pocket. So I knew that somewhere in my brain, it was telling me, hey, keep this guy from letting his hands come out of his hoodie. So I'm fighting with him to keep his hands in his hoodie. He's struggling to get his hands out of the hoodie pocket. And finally he gets his right arm out and for some reason, I thought he was trying to punch me in the head. Later on, it turns out he had the gun in his hand, and he was trying to basically do a press shot on my head. But so I'm like trying to fight his hand away and that kind of thing. And Micah jumps in and grabs a hold of the gun and the guy's hand and pushes it up in the air. As he does that, the gun goes off. And the round catches Micah in the trachea, comes out his lower back. Right about that time, one of our other partners, right about that time, one of our other partners had started running towards this guy and basically grabs him, and like they end up going down to the ground. Dude holds on to the gun. I lose all feeling in my legs, so I end up dropping. Micah drops, and so Marcus, suspect, are over here. Micah's over here, and I'm laying down on the ground. And all of a sudden, I see the suspect's arm go up. Still not even realizing I'm even shot right now. I just know that I can't feel my legs and something bad's happening. And he starts, I see his hand come up with the gun, and he starts just spraying. And so we return fire. A few other partners return fire, and guy eventually stops. And I remember once all the shooting was said and done, I remember hearing one of my partners scream out, "Stay with me, Micah." And he's running over to him. There was a bystander by the name of Villanueva that also got hit from one of the suspect rounds. And this poor guy, it was a round that they were able to determine was fired from the suspect, ricocheted off of the back windshield of a car, and hit this guy in the lower back. So just perfectly on the spinal cord. Mm-hmm. So he lost feeling in his lower extremities. I still can't move from the waist down. So my sergeant at the time, Jake Abishan, came over and like was staying with me. They're trying to control bleeding on me and that kind of stuff and plug wounds. And it was horrific, man. We all get carted off to the hospital. Jake got hit with shrapnel. Marcus got hit in the groin with a round. I had the round in the abdomen. They rushed Micah in first, then they may have rushed Villanueva in first. I know it was Villanueva got an ambulance pretty quick. I know Micah got an ambulance pretty quick, and then I got an ambulance pretty quick because they thought I was dead because like I had lost so much blood and everything. So, but I remember like even when they were wheeling us into the hospital, they were hooking me up to IVs and all sorts of other things like right away and giving me blood. And they actually had me call my wife because they didn't know if I was going to make it through it. So, well, I know something's wrong with Micah. I don't know if he lived or not. So, and then I come out of surgery. I think it was like 6 or 7 hours later. And I'm told, I was told that I made it through it. They were able to clean up the wound track the best they could, but I was still going to have issues. And then that's when somebody mentioned, hey, Micah didn't make it. And I was like, okay. So, or no, they said I was like, hey, how did Micah do? And they were like, oh, you haven't heard. And I was like, that pretty much right there. I was like, okay, that told me. So, so I was like, okay. Marcus was okay. He got released from the hospital that night. Jake got released from the hospital. They were seen and pretty much released and that kind of thing. So they were doing okay. Villanueva ended up getting paralyzed from the waist down. So, so I still feel bad for that guy. I mean, just he went through a bunch of stuff too. But so we ended up. I was in the hospital for the first time for probably, about I want to say 11 days, and then I was in and out of the hospital so much during my the first couple of months. I mean, I was in the hospital altogether within the first 6 months, a total of like I counted up, it was 29 days or something like that. Mm-hmm. So just because I was in and out so much. So they had I had issues with the wound track, and then like with bleeding, and then with gastrointestinal issues, and then like with the blood clot stuff. Like they found a pseudoaneurysm at one point in my hip that was the size of a 6-month-old fetus, and
wow,
it took 6 stints to actually get it under control. So so it was pretty gnarly. And then
the suspect died at the scene?
Yeah, he died at the scene. Mm-hmm. So we never really heard from his family or anything either, too, which I was actually kind of surprised about. So which, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, we never really heard much from that. So.
And then this happened in February 2018?
Yes. Yep. February 2018 is when it happened. Or February 5th, 2018. So so that's when everything took place. I started to try to return to work in actually November of 2018. I was allowed to do a few things, not much. Yeah. So, but I was like very limited. So,
and when you returned to work, so we're talking 9 months later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had been in the hospital, blah, 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 and all that. And were you in a wheelchair? Were you in a cane? And was it blatantly obvious to anybody that saw you that you were disabled?
Oh yeah. So like I was all the way up until about 7 months. I had to have some sort of assisted walking device, and like I had to have like compression. So my leg was, for the first probably 7 to 8 months, was like 3 times its normal size. So yeah, my left leg. So like, I mean, I still wear compression stockings because I have fluid buildup in them. So like if you look at me now, I can't really show you on the camera, but my left leg is at least almost twice as big as my right leg. So from the fluid buildup. So it's very obvious. Like, I mean, it's not obvious when I wear pants and that kind of thing, but if you look at it now, but like back then, oh yeah, it was extremely obvious. So I was in a wheelchair for a long time. I walked around with a walker for a few months. And then I switched to a cane. And then my goal was always to try to go back to patrol and to go back to being a detective at very minimum, just being able to sit and do desk work. So, and do investigations from a desk. So that was always,
you wanted to be a cop still.
yeah, I still wanted to do the job. Like I loved investigation. So I was totally down for that. So that's why I was fighting so hard to try to get back. So, and the doctors the whole time are like, well, you can't run, you can't jump, you can't lift stuff off the floor. And I was like, okay, so am I ever going to be able to do this? And they were telling me, you need to prepare for life with the possibility that you're never going to be able to do any of this stuff again. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay. So I talked with like lawyers and like was like, what do I need to do? How do I navigate this? And they're like, well, as long as the county's doing what they're supposed to be doing under the workers' comp laws, you'll be fine. So at that point, they had been doing everything that they were supposed to be doing. So I was like, cool, awesome. So I think it was, fast forward a little bit, I get to I think it was January or February of the following year. So 2019. That's when I get told that, hey, we're just going to put you in detectives and you're going to do this job. And I was like, cool, I can definitely do that. So I'm making it work. I'm making everything happen. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I still had some troubles with the job and like the physical aspect of it. I wasn't considered full status or anything like that, but the sheriff had sat me down and said, hey, the county doesn't have medical retirement. We don't have anything built into our system that offers medical retirement. So we want to make a position for you that we can basically just keep you at. And I was like, okay. So they went back and forth and like did a whole bunch of different stuff and that kind of thing. So I was told basically if I left, I could go on what they call disability, which is some agencies, they provide like long-term disability through a third-party insurance provider. Mm-hmm. The counties is Unum, so that's what they offered, but that's their version of basically making up for not having medical retirement. And the quote I was given was because the county retirement was not in a good place to be able to take on medical retirement, and it was not fully funded anyways, and to offer medical retirement would bankrupt the retirement program. And
how many officers were needing medical retirement? Was it that many?
No, I was the only one as far as I was aware. So, yeah.
So let me catch up. Let me catch up here. So you confront a bad guy. The bad guy shoots your partner who dies. Mm-hmm. You get shot. You become permanently disabled. Mm-hmm. And then they come to you and say, we don't have a medical retirement for you, even though you gave almost your all for the county of El Paso, Colorado. Mm-hmm. We're just not going to take care of you.
Yes. So they were doing everything under workman's comp that they were required to by law. So, but that's this standard. Whereas what you're talking about, they see as up here. So
I just, Donovan, that just seems like the minimum.
Yeah. Is there no state retirement system in Colorado?
There is, but agencies can opt into it. So
Oh, okay. So everyone is not part of the state retirement system. You have to opt in.
yeah, so
Okay.
there's something called the Fire Police Pension Association.
Mhm.
So my task force that I was on, CSPD and State Patrol, were on that task force as well. So
Okay.
those guys actually opt into that program. So if any one of those guys would have even claimed like PTSD from that or had issues with PTSD, they would have got they would have got pension. They would have
Right.
got the 66%. So one of my buddies had actually gotten medically retired from CSPD because he ended up hurting his hand hitting a bad guy in the face. And they botched the surgery and they ended up medically retiring him because now he doesn't have full function in his gun hand. And so and I was like, but here I am shot and nothing. So
Well, it doesn't
yeah.
make sense to me because if you had never been shot, you would have been paid 100% of your salary with raises and everything, medical insurance, all that kind of stuff. So here they were going to, it sounds like you're saying 66% is the max that they would give for a medical retirement,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is, significantly less than if they were paying you full salary.
Mhm.
What am I missing here?
So the state of Colorado just doesn't require it. They don't have anything for police officers to have that. So or firefighters to have that. There's nothing saying that you have to have that. So for your officers, they just say that you have to adhere to the standard workers' comp / disability program. So as long as you pay into something like Social Security and then offer some sort of disability program, that's all you have to do.
I'm just blown away.
Mhm.
I can't believe this.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that you can get shot and disabled and your department isn't required to take care of you
Mhm.
because you made a sacrifice that ruined your life for the fullness of your life.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
They're not going to honor your commitment to the people of El Paso County, and they're gonna rely on a shoddy workers' comp system, which is horrible for
Mhm.
anybody.
Mhm.
And that they call, I'm just blown away. Is there anything? Is there anything else that any other excuses, or did anybody feel bad? Did anybody from the county contact you?
So I stayed with the county for I stuck it out for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
So I finally like left and like I finally turned in my papers and said I can't keep going. Like I can't keep doing this. And they're like, well, that sucks. We really tried. We totally get it and that kind of thing. We wish you all the best of luck. You can file for disability and that kind of stuff. Um, and that was technically in 2021. Since then, we've been kind of petitioning the county to do something. And when we petitioned the county, they basically told the guy who was helping advocate for us that the county made accommodations for me and I couldn't make them work. And they said, yeah. They also claim or said that I'm not as disabled as I claim. So I know that angers you, but here's a list of all that I've got going on, just so that way listeners can come up with their own conclusion. So I don't have full function on my left leg. I have about 25% function of my left leg. I have about 25% percent function in my lower back. I have less than 30% function in my hip, both in my left and my right. The doctor said that I'm probably going to have a hip replacement on the left hip within 15 years of the shooting because of how much damage was caused. That vascular injury I have to be on blood thinners for the rest of my life. because of how much vascular damage. I have to wear compression stockings for the rest of my life because of that vascular damage. I have so much lymph fluid backup and buildup that I have to have a compression pump that I'm supposed to do twice a day for at least an hour a day. So I'm lucky if I can do it once a day. And I have to take. So I will say it. I have some PTSD from the whole shooting and everything because of everything I've gone through, and so I have to take medication for that as well. I still get prescribed every 4 months oxycodone, so 10 milligram tablets every 4 months. The doctor, like right now, my buddy just had a surgery for his back. They were like hesitant to give him Percocet. I walk into the pain management doctor and he literally asked me, "How many do you need?" And I'm like, that's how like screwed up my entire system is. I have so because my guts got rearranged so much during that whole thing too, I have intestinal issues every now and then, and like when I get gas buildup in my stomach, and I know that sounds like TMI, it pushes against the scar tissue in my hip, and it will actually cause my stomach to push up instead of down, and so it causes my entire system to feel like my stomach is going to explode. So that's majority of what I've got going on, but yet I'm not as disabled as I'm claimed. So
and who's making that claim?
That the county is. So
like
that's what I was told. Not even their doctors. They took the workers' comp doctor said, yeah, you can't be a cop. Like you don't need to be around law enforcement. He's like, based off of your mental health status, I don't think it's a good idea for you to stay in law enforcement. And I was like, okay. He's like, I mean, you can try, but you can't, like, I don't want you to be in contact with suspects. I don't want you to be anywhere near that kind of stuff. I don't want you to do any of that kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So they put me in, so at one point the county put me in backgrounds. And I was like, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah, who'd want to work backgrounds?
Yeah, right? Horrible gig.
Jeez. I was like, I don't want to work backgrounds. I was like, man, I would. So they sent me to polygraph school. And so I came back and I was doing the polygraph, but like I was working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday and everything. And I was like, man, this is just putting a major strain on my system. And I was making it trying to make it work between all that and the medical stuff and all the running around and honestly being around the office and everything. That was so hard on my mental health because I was trained to do all this stuff and I couldn't do any of it. So I wasn't ready to give up that part of my life. And that was so hard to see everybody else around me doing it. And I wasn't able to participate. So I wasn't able to even help them. Like I was told, you can't be around that, or you can't do that. You can't touch it and that kind of stuff. And that was such a hard thing to do. And I got to the point where my wife was like, I don't care what you have to do, but you can't keep going into that job. Like your mental health, I'm seriously concerned what may end up happening. And I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the whole time it was really weird because the sheriff, after I got back from polygraph school, was pushing me to start a polygraph business. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird. So I did. I mean, I did everything I was told to do. But I felt like I was just driving myself into the ground. I'm like, I couldn't, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so finally, when I just told them, yeah, I can't do this anymore, they're like, oh, well, great. You have the business you can fall back on. When I applied for the disability, they said I made too much from the polygraph business to qualify for the disability.
What do you mean qualify? You got shot.
They cap it. I can't make more than $48,000 a year to qualify for disability.
You qualify for disability because you got shot.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that that's how it goes. But yeah,
that's regardless.
Yeah. So this
I
is
just can't believe, because if you got shot, let's say you got shot and you were permanently disabled and you got 40, you got whatever money for your disability, and then you won the lottery.
Mhm.
That doesn't have squat to do with you got shot.
You would think.
At, at any point, Scott, at any point, did you feel like your department turned their back on you? And was there anybody that was advocating, saying, "No, this is wrong. I'm gonna make"? Did anybody advocate for you?
I'd like to say yes, because I like hear things every now and then, or I hear little snippets of things that were said behind closed doors. But I've never actually I've never had anybody come to or like actually stand up and say, "Hey, we need medical retirement because of Scott." And like the FOP started to, but then I kind of got to the point where I was told, "Well, this is not because you already left. This really isn't something that we can take up." And I'm like, seriously? Like, this is you guys aren't willing to fight that battle? Like, and they're like, well, we'll try, but there's other things we're also trying to push. It's a political agenda, man. Like, that's why right now no one from the county has even reached out to even say, we're sorry. Like, we're sorry that you're still going through this. What can we do to help? Like, no one's offered to help pay for anything else that I'm going through, or to help pay for like even medical insurance. My gosh, like even if the county were to come and say, "Hey, we'll pay for your medical insurance," like that would be something. Like they have. I lost. So when I left the county, I lost my primary care doctor. So because it's all an internal system, so I had to go find a new doctor. So and I had to find new source of all that kind of stuff. So it's insane, man. I lost everything when I left the county, but I've never felt since I have left the county, I have felt like I have not gotten one. Oh, you know what? I just remembered this in 2002 or 22. I got hit by a drunk driver coming home from work one day. Not a single person and I'm friends with some of the people on command staff from the sheriff's office, and they knew about it. People had told them about it and that kind of thing. Not a single person, and I was even friends with some of the county commissioners. Not a single person from upper echelon of the Paso County contacted me and said, "We heard what you went through. We're so sorry. Is there anything we can do for you?" Or just even, "Hey, you have our condolences." Not a single person, man.
Do they provide you with lifetime medical for the actual injuries from the shooting?
So we sued to keep the workers' comp claim open, but we have had they wanted to close it after 7 years of the shooting, even though that the doctor was saying you're probably going to have a hip replacement in 10. And so, but we recently got told that. So one of the restrictions that I have is I have to go see a PT specialist once a week to do manual manipulation for my leg. And the county is trying to say, well, you don't really need that. So they're trying to say, well, we'll buy you a machine or something. So that way you don't have to do that. And I'm like, what? Like the doctor's literally saying, no, he has to have this. Wow. The hematologist tried to send me to a specialist doctor. And I was like, the county and the insurance company that does that stuff are going to tell you no. And the nurse, it was funny because I was sitting in with the nurse practitioner. She's like, no, you need to go see this doctor. I need you to go see this doctor because we need to get this checked out. I was like, about 3 hours, within 3 hours of you placing that order in, you're going to get a call from somebody up in Denver who is going to make you feel super stupid for putting that in. And you're going to change your mind, or you're going to call me and say that you changed your mind and you don't think I actually need to. And she's like, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Within 4 hours of that appointment, I got a call from her saying, well, I understand them saying that it's not a medical necessity. And I was like, I told you. And she got mad.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mm.
I told you that was going to happen.
Yeah. So in Denver, or so in Colorado, my assumption is that every agency contracts their own workers' comp. There's not like a state system.
No, there's so they contract their own. The
Mhm.
one for like the counties, or for the counties can buy into, is called CCMSI, and it's Colorado County Medical Systems Insurance or whatever. So
Right.
yeah.
So the county's paying for it. So as long as you stay on the workers' comp, their premiums keep going up because of it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So
Yep.
whatever I end up passing on to them, they have to pay for it. So
Right.
that's the only thing that they are required to by law. And like I said, there's also something in Colorado. Once you get to a certain point in your case, the workers' comp can also demand that you pay for part of your treatment, because they will say that part of it is due to your own life circumstances.
Mhm.
So eventually they'll come back and say, hey, you got to pay for, 25% or half of this and that kind of thing. So we can't be forced to pay for all of that.
Right.
Hmm.
So
Right.
And the FOP is a union.
yeah, it's the Fraternal Order of Police. It's the local lodge here in Colorado Springs.
And they're
So
part of the larger organization, but everything's localized.
yeah. So
And I just want to say their response was so weak.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try, but you're not a member anymore, so
Well,
Yeah.
and he's right. When it comes to the FOP, it is politically based. So if it's gotta affect someone specifically, who's active in law enforcement. So since sounds like that started after you were done, is that right, Scott? So
Yeah, and I mean,
Mhm.
even when I was in law enforcement, they didn't really push the medical retirement, partially because even though it's the union, the local lodge didn't pay into any of the labor services, so it was more of just like legal protection for when you get in trouble and that kind of stuff. So like, I got a lawyer for the shooting, because we got civilly sued by the bystander. And then we had to go through all of the criminal stuff because of the officer involved shooting portion of it. So I got a lawyer for all that, but like they didn't pay for the workers' comp attorney. So I found a gentleman who pretty much did it for me for free, which was cool. So, but
Mhm.
he was only able to do so much because in the state of Colorado too, there's caps. So a workers' comp claim in Colorado caps out at $182,000. So at the time of my shooting, so that includes reimbursement for anything that is paid to you during the time that you're out, and any kind of monetary compensations. The max that anybody has to pay is 182,000.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at a grand scheme of things, that's not that much, because you said that's time loss and medical and everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
that's nothing.
That's not a lot then. No.
that's
No.
nothing if you include the medical in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Wow. That's
travel and paying doctors and all that kind of stuff. Oh
crazy.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just guessing that before you, no police officer in Colorado had ever become shot and disabled, and this was so new to them, they didn't know what to do. What do we do?
Oh my dude,
I'm gonna lost sometimes over this.
Yeah.
it's
So
crazy.
the question I have, Scott, is before you made the decision that, hey, it's time, I just need to get away from it because you just mentally can't handle it anymore. Was there any pressure from the department for you to make that step, or were they pretty accommodating with the work that you were doing? I mean, were they just letting you come in and do the work without pressuring you? Hey, you need to think about this and maybe you need to retire.
You know, I felt it. I felt like there was pressure. They wanted me to perform to a certain level, and like I couldn't perform to that level. And they're like, "Well, you need to decide what you can do then." So, and I was like, "Okay." So, um, they were my direct supervisor at the time. She was pretty cool with me coming and going as I needed to for appointments and stuff like that. But then it always was like, well, you couldn't do this, so we have to find someone else to do this. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, so well then am I in the right position even? So because
Right.
it's constantly like, well, you're out, so I'm gonna have to find someone else to do this. You're not here, so I'm gonna have to find someone else to do this. And it's that constant like it's almost like the mind game of, hey, you're not around, so I guess I have to find another person to take on your workload and that kind of thing. So
Right. Right. There was no policy with the county though that you could only be on light duty for a certain amount of time before they would then terminate your employment or anything.
oh, there was. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It
Oh.
was 90 days. And so that's why they had to, or the sheriff moved me to the position he did, was because he said, well, they don't have medical retirement. So I can't, I either have to put you or take you off of light duty and put you back on workers' comp and on
Mhm.
short term disability, or I have to make accommodations for you. And so
Okay.
they moved me to, that's when they like said, oh, we're going to move you to investigations and just put you in missing persons. Honestly, if the county would have kept me in the missing persons spot,
Mhm.
where I probably would have been okay. I probably could have made it work. So, but the rigor of what they were trying to have me do was just way too much.
Mhm.
So, and I remember at one point I actually had a bureau chief ask me to come into his office. He talked to me about all of my injuries. He talked to me about my job and like what I wanted to do and everything. And I told him I still wanted to be an investigator. I still wanted to be I wanted to be a detective and that kind of thing. And he's like, well, we'll see about that because you're just a liability to this office. And I was like,
Wow.
really? Like,
Wow.
so
You
yeah.
know, that's the other thing, Ken, too, is these cities and counties, they have these ridiculous time limits on light duty. I mean, as a cop, if you're out, you want to come back because you're missing it. You feel like you've lost a part of you, and mentally, you got to get back right away. And Scott, I don't know where you were at if you came back too soon, but some officers come back too soon, so they're burning up that light duty. All of a sudden, they can't heal within the amount of time on the light duty, and then they're being pushed to the curb because there's nothing else that the city or county can do for them.
Oh, I was dreading it. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Like I felt like I went back too soon, but I remember like, I was like, man, I need to go back or they're going to fire me.
Yep.
It's, I remember even the sheriff at one point called me and said, yeah, the county HR wants me to let you go. So, but I told him no. And I'm like, seriously? Like,
Yeah.
so, and it's kind of like those games too. Like, you don't tell me that. Like, even if they told you that, don't tell me that. Like, why
Mhm.
would you tell a guy that? Because now all of a sudden, now I feel like that burden. So
Yep.
there is a saying amongst injured law enforcement that it rings so true. I my family would have been better off if I would have died,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
and it's sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
I I think I know the answer to this question already, but do you feel like that you became a burden to the county?
oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm still a burden to the county. The county doesn't like me. So if I wasn't a burden to the county, they would they'd invite me to stuff. They'd probably call me every now and then. Hey Scott, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Is there anything we can do for you? Is there anything we can check on for you? Is there something we can help you out with? So they don't do any of that. I am a pimple on their butt right now. So
So how would you describe going through what you've gone through? How would you describe the departments that say, "Hey, come on, join us. We're a family."
Right.
I would tell people seriously look at their benefits. Look to see what benefits they have, because if they truly want to treat someone good and treat them like quote unquote family, you're going to see it in like what they offer. Like they're going to offer the mental health aid. They're going to offer good benefits. They're going to offer good health care. They're going to offer like spousal care. They're going to offer child care in some way or some form. They're going to have something set up to where if you get injured, that you're going to get taken care of. So like truly get taken care of, not like, oh, well, we have disability insurance, like something that's actually going to take care of you. But like agencies that just say, oh, we're going to treat you like family. No, like I almost hate to say it, but a lot of those days are gone. Right. It's not like how it used to be in law enforcement, where, I don't even see guys going out anymore and really having barbecues and picnics like with guys on shift anymore. It's become more of just it's a career field for sure, but it's not like that close, tight knit group that you see. So at least that's what I see anymore. Mm-hmm. So
I think a lot of injured officers are finding out now that you are just like in the corporate world, you're a number now. You're nothing more than a number.
Yeah.
And if you stay on, you're taking up a spot that they could fill with someone who could do the job.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for Scott being a malingerer and faking his injuries,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
That's
absolutely.
Is there did it ever get elevated to any like government agency, state government, anything like that where they were going to bat for you?
I did go to Congressman Doug Lamborn's office, and he had someone from his office that was helping me push a little bit on this. But again, a lot of stuff is political, and part of it also comes down to really how far I want to take this, and this what's in it for the county, what's in it for me, and is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? And how much blood are you going to get from a turnip? So, but because if the county's doing everything legally that they're required to, who's going to make them do anything different besides putting political pressure on them?
Right.
So
yeah.
So go ahead. Someone really has to want to take up that cross and bear it. And I've reaching out through my friend at the congressman's office and that kind of thing. It doesn't sound like anybody at the county wants to do that. So
it sounds obviously that it's money related. You or the money, and I can almost guarantee you there are projects in the county, as they are in any county, where there's stupid projects that they're spending money on, millions of dollars on, and yet they tell you, who almost gave your life for that county, that they don't have the money for you.
Absolutely.
That's terrible. So Scott, where are you today? I mean, obviously you have lifelong disabilities, lifelong things that you have to deal with. Did they, at this point, did they pretty much desert you, and are you on your own now?
Oh yeah. So I like I said, I still have the workers' comp case open. So we push for every little thing we can through that as far as medical wise, but I'm on my own. I own the polygraph business. I do pretty decently with that. I've been really pushing hard with that. So that's been a godsend. I do appreciate Bill Elder for at least sending me to polygraph school. And I mean, I thank him for doing that. So, but yeah, I'm financially, I'm on my own. I have a job with a local church here in town that I work for, and I do stuff with them, and then I do the polygraph business, and I just have a couple of different ventures that I do. We make it where it's not a spectacular life or anything like that. My wife gets concerned with me, but I'm here, man. I'm here, and I'm going to raise my kids, and I'm going to just do the best I can. So, what's crazy about all this is when everything was said and done, here within the last year, I did apply for the disability insurance for the county, and they did actually cut me a check, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, but you made money with the polygraph stuff," and I was like, "Yeah, I've told you that all along," and they're like, well, now you owe all that money back to us. And so we use that to pay off debts that we had incurred from while we were doing the medical stuff and everything. And so now they want $33,000 back from us. So what's crazy about that too is I had to pay taxes on that. I was like, so I had to pay taxes on it, and my accountant was like, "Yeah, you do."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I was like, "So how do I get that money back eventually, that I paid taxes on?" She's like, "Well, you have to file an amendment to your taxes every year." And I'm like, so it never ends. And I'm like, she's like, "Yeah, unfortunately." And I'm like, the great thing is I've had some people who have really tried to help us out, and just from the community friends and friends that I've made. A doctor came to me right after the shooting. I was still in the hospital. One of the doctors, who was a trauma surgeon from the Air Force, said, "You are going to learn who your true friends are, and you're going to lose some people who you thought were friends that were really never your friends." And I was like, that's kind of a weird saying, or a weird thing to say, but it's true. I learned very quickly who the people who really cared about me were. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and you learn that pretty quickly, who's going to use you and who's not. So
you left the county with nothing?
With nothing. I got a badge. I got a badge and a gun. They gave me an ID card that said medically retired. So
little slap in the face there.
Which is funny, because they were like, when I got that badge and gun, they told me how great of an employee I was, and that I worked so hard and all that kind of stuff. And when the congressman's office talked to the county, they were like, "Oh yeah, the sheriff's office said he was a bad employee. He was not a good employee." And I'm like, what? That's so weird. I have evals that say differently too. So that's crazy.
Why are they doing that?
Why
would they do that?
They got to demonize me. They've got to make me out to be the bad guy. So, and all this, man. So,
well, this is a very disappointing story. I just can't believe that there are counties and cities and states that do that. So, I gotta tell you, Scott, you're a survivor, definitely. And through all just alone the injuries and losing your partner and all that, just alone, that would be enough. But the fact that they put you through the ringer, they demonize you, you're the bad guy, you can't perform, and you're faking your injuries, that's a betrayal that I just can't believe. It's that leadership betrayal that we talk about.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away. But thank you for being here and sharing this story. And Donovan, you have anything else in closing?
I don't. It's just disappointing hearing another story, where a department has let another officer down who served his community, put his life on the line, and sacrificed, and city or county's not there to stand up behind them.
Yeah. I do have one last thing that I do want to share with the listeners. If anything, out of everything that I've been through, let this be a lesson to really really take a look at the agencies you're working for and really truly understand what you're signing up for. Don't just get a cop job to get a cop job. Know what your worth is, and know, is this agency actually going to take care of me if something in the long run, if something happens to me. So, because when push comes to shove, you never think that you're going to be that guy that ends up happening to. But if you are, that's when it's really going to matter. And that's when it's going to happen. I found Christ, and that's really what got me through all of this. And then my wife was really a strong cornerstone for me, but that may not be the case for everybody. And so always be careful about what you're signing up for. So,
yeah. And that's that's something new that we have not really. I always tell people, look into the departments to see what their retirement benefits are and their medical into retirement benefits are. But I never even thought for a second about disability benefits. And I don't know anybody that's walked away from a career in law enforcement that isn't hurt for the rest of their life. They have injuries upon injuries, and some of them are just, you just take those away with you from the job, and some of them are disability injuries. Yeah, this is a good lesson to learn. And Scott, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you sharing your story. And eye opener, guys. Everybody that's listening, that's thinking about lateraling to an agency or is thinking about joining an agency, you need to check into those disability benefits if you get hurt.
Yeah.
And so Donovan, anything else?
I'd say if you're looking into that, don't trust the recruiter. Go on right along and talk to an officer who's actually working the road. They're the ones who are going to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not that I don't trust recruiters, but they're there to sell the department.
Absolutely.
And before we go, is that information mostly in the contracts, the MOUs? Where's that hidden?
It's mostly like when you actually look at the benefits package. So they will have it either on the city's website or on the county's website. Look to see what their either the year prior or that year's benefits package is. They will either have it listed on the website under like HR, or they'll have it listed under compensation details, and they'll say like, we have Affleck, we have this, and they'll have like life insurance information, and usually it's somewhere listed under some sort of like life insurance or retirement information.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, and appreciate you being here. And we will be back with more episodes just like this one. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.